Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today. Just a little bit on the webinar series that we're holding the next few weeks. This is part number 1 of our webinar series. I'm going to focus on how to get data straight into your hands. But as I mentioned, in the next coming weeks, we'll have 2 additional sections in this series, so you can see exactly how to get that data out of the plant and straight into your hands to make meaningful and decisions on how to operate your production facility. Thanks again for joining us this afternoon, especially during these times that we have. I'm really glad you guys could have made the effort to actually join us on this webinar today. With me, I've got myself, Lenny, that's going to drive the webinar and the demo today. We also have Clarice Rotenbach from Element 8, our marketing manager. Clarice, thanks again for all the effort you've put in to get this webinar promoted and get the registrations in, so we can actually go and deliver this meaningful content that we've got for our channel partners on the call here today. And we also have Yaku Marquardt, MD from Element 8 on the line, and I want to thank everybody for actually making the time and joining us from a panel perspective as well today. Now, before we get going into the Ignition SCADA solution and the little demo that I've got prepared here for you today, I just want to very quickly introduce you to Element 8. Now, I'm very proud that as of today, we are the authorized distributor of the Ignition SCADA solution by Inductive Automation, as well as the Canary Time Series Historian by Canary Labs, and the Flow Information platform by Flow Software. And we truly honestly believe that these 3 components, or these 3 software packages, is an unparalleled solution stack, a best of breed solution stack that we can offer and take to our clients in our current market conditions. The focus that we have here from Element 8 perspective is completely system integrated channel focused. So we support our channel, by giving them training, we support our channel by giving them support, and we really want to help everybody that's on this call here today to see their potential and to translate that potential in everyday automation projects that they might do inside of their production facilities. So before I get started with my little demo and show you guys how easy it is to get plant data or edge data into your fingertips, I'm just going to very quickly have a few slides just to introduce the Ignition SCADA solution. So what is Ignition? Well, Ignition is what we call a modular industrial server application. Now, yes, you might think, well, it's just an HMI or SCADA that I just install, but in essence, you actually install a little bit more than just a SCADA. You install this industrial application server that allows you to create SCADA and HMI's applications. But it doesn't stop there from the capability that you can actually deploy from an Ignition perspective. It's been designed from the ground up. It's very easy to get started with. It's extremely capable to cater for the smallest implementation that you might have, up until the largest or biggest kind of multi-site, multi-enterprise installation. So in that sense, it really is a good fit for any type of automation project that you might encounter. Now, when you install the software, you install it as server-based software, but everything you do and everything that you configure, you do through web-based sessions. So Ignition is installed and deployed by using these web technologies, and you also manage your solution by the means of the Ignition platform's website. So, and we'll see some of these web pages and settings that I will go through as I do my demo. So everything is done from a configuration perspective, and you also launch your applications from this website. So all your designer tools and all your client tools that you will actually utilize to build screens and build applications and launch it from an operator perspective will be done through these website launched web pages. Now, you can easily use Ignition and the web technologies that it gives us to access PLCs and databases. You can connect to them and you can configure them from anywhere, from any platform. And in that sense, it does give you the common HMI SCADA capability that we need. It just does it in a very better and a much simpler kind of fashion. So why is it so special? What makes Ignition so special and disruptive in our current industry? Well, first of all, it really has a very hassle-free and very simple licensing model. It's extremely easy to get installed and to deploy a solution. You can very rapidly develop, and multiple people can develop at the same time. It's extremely flexible, and it's very easy to get going and to get yourself familiarized with all the tools and all the designers to actually build out your application. Now, from a licensing model and a licensing perspective, it's very simple to actually license your Ignition server. Ignition is sold by a server license, so that means you license the actual server that you're running the product on, and with that you can have unlimited free web launch clients. You can also have unlimited amount of tags that you can actually host on side of the server, and you can also go and configure and connect to unlimited free concurrent designers. So you license a server, and pretty much you've got free reign on the capability and the amount of data that you can connect to it, and the amount of screens you can develop on it, and as many concurrent designers can connect to actually work on the same project from that perspective. It's extremely simple to get installed. A few weeks ago I did a webinar where I actually installed the product. I got it installed under 2 minutes and 30 seconds, so you really can get it installed for under 3 minutes, and it runs fully cross-platform, so you can install it on your Windows PC or your Mac or your Linux box, and you can actually go and develop and configure across these different platforms that we're also running. And I'll show you that an example from my situation that I've got for the little bit of a demo here. So in essence, when you deploy it, is when you install the industrial application server, you install that on top of your operating system layer. Now that platform then gives you a certain amount of capability. It is an OPC UA client. It allows you to connect to databases. It provides you real-time tags from your PLCs. So it gives you the platform or core platform layer, and on top of that platform layer is then also the different type of modules that we can enable and disable depending on the different type of applications. So we've got our SQL Bridge module, we've got our Tag Historian, we've got our 2 visualization clients, which is Vision and the Ignition Perspective module. We also have our reporting and alarm notification modules. On top of these modules, there's also companies that create third-party modules. So from an MES perspective, if you need to do an OEE or a downtime or a track and trace solution, you can enable those modules on top of your platform. Or if you want to utilize the MQTT protocol from an IIoT perspective, you can enable those modules to extend your platform. And on top of your platform and all the modules is then where you will go and create your user-created applications. So your SCADA applications, your HMIs, your MES, and your IIoT applications will then live on top of these different modules that we've deployed. And in essence, what we are doing is we're creating this one centralized or universal communication platform or communication hub, where I can get all my real-time signals, being OPC based, being PLC or driver based from the PLC perspective. If I need to get data from databases or ERPs or barcode scanners or mobile devices, everything can be configured and connected to create this one universal platform where I can get all my real-time calculations and all my real-time tags in, and I can go and start building my applications on top of that. Now, before I go and actually demo a little bit of a project, I just want to very quickly go through the actual workflow or what's required to actually build an application. Now, I mentioned a little bit previous in the slides that when you install the software, you actually install server-side software. So what that will do is it will actually install and configure what we call the Ignition Gateway. So the Ignition Gateway is the central piece of software that runs on your server side. And when you configure and create applications with your designer, you actually go and connect to the gateway. You'll design your applications, you will create these applications, you will save these applications back onto the gateway. So the gateway is the central point where all your tags and all your connections and all your applications lives, and you'll utilize the designer to actually build out these applications. And these applications can obviously range from a whole bunch of different types of applications: mobile, SCADA, MES, or IoT type of applications. Now, from a physical architecture perspective, you can deploy Ignition in its most simple form, which is a very simple central server managed solution, where you would go and install the Ignition server with all the modules that you require on one single server, and you'll connect that to databases, or you connect that to your different PLCs, create your applications and deliver these applications through your front ends. Now these could be mobile devices, web launch clients, touch panels, and obviously you will also utilize that to design your applications. Now you can move this to the cloud, and you can actually have your server and your database residing in the cloud, and then you can have actually access from anywhere to configure and design and launch your applications. Ignition themselves don't offer cloud hosted servers, but nothing stops you from actually spinning up your own VM in the cloud and running your application on cloud hosted architecture. If it's a very critical application, you might want to go and deploy redundancy. So in this case, I've got a secondary Ignition server that will be my redundant server, and with failover capability, so I always have a very good uptime of my application. Now we mentioned that Ignition can scale very simple from the smallest application to the more larger and complex type of applications that you might encounter. Now in this architecture, it just shows you that we can go and, from an architectural freedom perspective, go and split out the load if we really have a very big application. So I can split out my tags, my real-time tags, out on its own individual servers, and I can have the visualization or the graphics component live on the front end, or the front end gateway. So all my clients that need to see the application, all the load will be distributed by those 3 servers in the front by means of a load balancer that we can deploy from an IT perspective. So from an architectural freedom perspective, it really is very, very flexible in the way that we can deploy these architectures, and also very important that we will only license the different module that is required on these different servers. So in the tags and IO server, we probably just need to license the PLC driver that we need to communicate with them, and then on the front end side we will then license and activate all our vision and our front or our visualization modules, vision or the perspective module from that perspective. We can also have a very good distributed architecture, so if we potentially have stranded assets out in the field, in this case we can utilize the MQTT kind of modules to bring those stranded assets out to a central server. And you'll notice in this example that I've got a few field devices running the Ignition Edge module. There's some devices that only has the MQTT transmission module installed, but they all go and talk back to a cloud hosted MQTT server, and then my central Ignition server can get those tags and data that's been published to that server to visualize on the visualization perspective. So we can really go and build out these more distributed architectures by utilizing it from that perspective. Alright, now it's time for my demo, and it's going to be a live demo. Probably shouldn't use this slide of the Tesla demo going a little bit wrong, but let's go and actually build out a little bit of an example of how easy it is to actually get edge data from my devices. Now let me just quickly lay the scene here of what I'm actually going to go and demo. So my little scenario that I've built out is the following. So I've got a whole bunch of solar plants, and these solar panels and solar plants or solar farms is connected to inverters, obviously, and these inverters has certain data that I would like to get. I would like to know what is the kilowatt of what each and every inverter delivers to the grid, as well as if there's any fault codes what these inverters actually generate. Now on these solar farms there's also a weather station, and typically what these weather stations will give us is the temperature, the pressure, the radiance that I get from the sun, obviously a very important factor, so I can determine theoretically what should my kilowatt production actually have been. Now normally on these type of sites these things are connected to a Modbus master, and in this case what I'm going to do with my little Ignition Edge component here is I'm going to go and connect to Ignition Edge or to these Modbus devices to get all of these different signals out. Now if you're going to look on the Inductive Automation's website and you go to the onboard section, they actually have a whole bunch of different devices. If I can just quickly show you guys that in my browser here, they've got a whole bunch of different devices that we can actually go and look at to actually run Ignition Edge directly. So in this case there's some cellular gateways that we can use, There's some embedded PCs that I can actually, that comes with Ignition Edge already pre-configured and installed. There's some gateways and embedded PCs. There's even some PLCs that run the Ignition Gateway already installed on it. And then obviously from a touch or HMI perspective, there's some rugged touch panels and field devices and HMIs that I can run my Ignition Edge device on top of. So just want to quickly show you guys the options are there, but not necessarily that you cannot run it on any other device. These devices have been certified with the Ignition Onboard program, but for sure you can go and run it on, in my example, what I've got here is a little Raspberry Pi device, and I'll show you guys that a little bit later as I do the demo. Alright, now what I'm going to utilize is I'm going to utilize the MQTT transmitter module to transmit these data points into the cloud. I've got a cloud hosted MQTT server that will be my broker for all of this data. And then on the corporate side or in the enterprise side, I'm going to also go and subscribe to this data sitting in my MQTT broker. In this case, I'm going to install the MQTT engine module on top of my central server, and I'm going to build out a very simple perspective or HTML5 rendered visualization client, little dashboard project from that perspective. So in a nutshell, that is what I'm going to cover in the next few minutes here in the demo, and let's see how well we can connect to these different devices. Okay. So I'm going to just stop the presentation here for a minute, and just to show you guys my little device that I am going to connect it to, let me just bring up my phone here. Let's with the camera, let's just turn it around. So here I am. Hi guys, let's see how well this live demo is going to go. So just to show you guys here in the office, there I've got a very simple little Raspberry Pi that I'm gonna run my MQTT Edge device on, and that little Raspberry Pi is gonna push out the data to my MQTT broker, and I'm gonna subscribe to that broker to get my data out. Okay, so let's just get myself out of the way here, and let's get cracking with the demo. Now we said that everything is installed as server-side software, and we configure everything by means of a gateway. So I'm going to go and connect to the gateway running on my little Raspberry Pi, and it's as easy as typing in the web address of that device and then the default port of where your Ignition gateway is installed. So in this case I'm creating it through my browser, and I'm logging into the gateway now that's running on the Pi device. You'll notice that I am running Ignition Edge, which is the HMI and panel kind of solution. And also I can enable the MQTT transmitter module to extend the capability there. Currently my trial's expired. I can at any point reset the trial, and I've got 2 hours again running. And that's also very nice. I don't have to have a license to run and configure. I can utilize the trial mode or the trial license to get my device up and running. Right, so from our little architecture diagram that I had, you guys remember that I need to communicate to my Modbus device that's on the field. So obviously I need to connect my little edge here to the Modbus master that's sitting in the field. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my device connections at the bottom here. Currently I only have a little simulator connected to it, but I'm going to go and create a new device connection, and I'm actually going to connect to that Modbus TCP device. But you can notice that I can also connect to Allen Bradley PLCs, Siemens PLCs, and then obviously my Modbus and TCP or RTU that I might encounter. So I'm going to connect to my Modbus. It's going to be Modbus TCP. Hit the next button here. I'm going to give it a nice name. So this will be my solar plant. And all I need to do is give it the host name or the IP address of where my Modbus server is running. It's going to use the default Modbus port, which is port 502, and let's go and create this new device here. So started up disconnecting, trying to connect, and there we go. I've got a successful connected Modbus device here. Right, now as you know, Modbus is not browsable. It's not a browsable standard that I can actually just browse the tags and see all the values of the different tags that's available in that Modbus server. But Ignition's got a very good feature, a very nice feature, where I can actually go and create aliases for these Modbus tags. So I'm going to create a few aliases here, and I'm going to add a new alias row. Now, my first data that's in my Modbus device is all the data that's related to the weather station. So I'm going to give it a prefix of Met for my Met station, and I've got 8 tags that I've got available for me. These range from temperatures to barometric pressures to the irradiance and the air temperature, etc. And they start at Modbus address number 1. Now, very nice thing is that I could have selected if it was a coil or a discrete input, or the different holding and input registers, depending on the different sizes. In this case, it's the normal 40,001 kind of holding register, normal in16 kind of scenario. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go and create these registers. Right, now the next one that I've got is obviously the actual inverters themselves. So the first row that I've got for my inverters would be the active power. So I'm just going to call it in my inverter kilowatts. I've got 10 inverters in this solar farm, so they're going to go from 1 to 10. Again, it's the same old holding register, but now they start at address number 9. I also have fault signals coming from my inverter, so this will be my inverter faults. Again, I've got 10 inverters, so that will go from inverter 1 to 10. Again, normal holding registers, and they start at address number 19. Now the last thing that I've got from this Modbus device is the actual meter. So that will be all my meter data. I've got 14 different meter signals that's available for me. This includes amps, voltages for the different phases, the wattages, the delivered power, etc. And they all start at address number 29. Right, so I've created this little alias list for myself. I'm going to hit the save button here. That will now save it. And if I'm lucky and I'm going to collect or connect via my quick client here, my OPC quick client, and if I browse these devices that I've just created from a solar plant, I should be able to browse these tags. So there we go, there's my net station tags, and if I read one of these tags, I should get a value. So there we go, it's about 17 degrees out in the field there. And let's see if I can get some inverter power data in here. So let's see what inverter number 2 gives me. It's quite a lot of kilowatts that an inverter is producing. So with this feature, very nice, I can actually go and create these alias listed for my Modbus tags. Perfect. So I've got connection to my Modbus device. I've created the alias tags. The next thing that I need to do is to push these out with the MQTT protocol to the cloud. Now let's go look at my modules that I've got installed on this device. Currently I don't have any MQTT modules. You'll just notice all the standard modules that's installed, but I can go and very easily go and install that third-party module. So I'm going to click here on the install or upgrade a module component here. I'm going to browse to my Ignition transmitter file. I've already downloaded it a little bit earlier before this demo, and I'm going to go and physically install that onto my device. So again, very nice feature. I'm not physically connected to the Pi. I'm just connected via its gateway address. The module file lives on my computer, so it's actually now transferring that file from my PC to the device, installing it, and getting it ready for me there to run. So obviously it will take probably a little bit of time to get that installed and running. So let's just give it a gap, and there we go. Alright, so there we go. I've got my MQTT device or module installed. It will also create additional settings that I can go and configure, and in this case I've got 2 components here. The history component, so I can select if I want to save some data on the little Raspberry Pi itself in case of a network failure. I can create a history set for that, and I can also tell it, obviously I need to tell it to which MQTT broker does it need to send data to. In this case, you'll notice that it's connected to my cloud hosted environment. And if I look at the transmitter, what it will do is it will create a tag path for me called MQTT tags, and any tag that I put into that folder, it will transmit out to any broker, and obviously any device that's listening for those tags will be automatically created. Alright, so I'm going to disable it for now because I want to enable it and show you guys how it will automatically create the tags for me. Okay, so let's quickly launch my designer. So I'm going to create a project now on the little Pi device. So I'm going to launch the designer. What it's going to do, it's just going to ask me to log into the Pi with my credentials here. Whoops. Now you guys all know how secure my devices are. Sorry about that. Alright, and this will now obviously launch the designer. So the designer is what I will now use to create my kind of HMI windows, etc. on the little application that I've got running on the Pi. You'll notice that currently I've got no tags inside of my folder structure. I do have that tag structure that's been created for my MQTT tags, but I've got no tags for the inverters. I've got no tags for the meteorological station. But I can actually obviously browse those tags. If I browse my devices here, there's my little solar plant, there's all the med station tags, etc., all my meter, all my kilowatt tags, and my fault tags. So let's quickly get these tags into my application, and then I'm pretty much ready to start pushing them out with MQTT. Right, so let's create a new tag folder here. This will be for my met data, so this will be my meteorological stations data, and let's drag all my METS tags into that station tag there. Then it will go and create all of the tags, and I've got the real-time values coming through, so I know what the pressure is, I know the radiance from the sun, and I've got the temperatures in here as well. Right, now for the inverters themselves, I've got two tags. I've got the kilowatt and I've got the fault code. But I would like to create a data type of these fault codes as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and drag my kilowatt here on data types. I'm not going to create the individual tag, but I'm actually going to create a data type, and this data type will be of type inverter. So let's give it a nice name. So this is my inverter data type. Currently it has one parameter, which is the kilowatts. But what I would like to do is I want to use this template to mass instantiate all 10 of my inverters. So I need some parameter to obviously distinguish these different inverters. In this case, I'm going to create a new parameter. I'm going to call it my inverter number, and by default that will be value number 1. Let's commit that, hit apply, and I've got my little inverter with its one tag. I can very simple also drag on the fault tag to there, so let's drag that onto the inverter data type. It's going to ask me, do I want to add to my type? Do I want to create a new type? In this case, all I want to do is add that type or that tag to my data type here. So I'm going to add that, and let's just clean up the names again. Obviously, it's now not hard-coded to inverter 1 anymore. It's now just the generic kilowatts. It's the generic faults. And let's just fix the item paths, because obviously the item paths will be hard-coded to the individual tags themselves, but I would like to change that to the actual inverter number that I'm going to go and configure. So let me just do that for the kilowatts as well, and let's just change this to my inverter number as well. Perfect. So I've got my data here that I can now utilize to mass instantiate all my different inverters that I've got. So let's create a nice tag structure here for my inverters. So let's create a new tag. Let's call that my inverters. And what I'm now going to do is I'm going to use the multi-instant wizard to go and create all of my different inverters for me. So I've got 10 inverters, so they will go from 1 to 10. And I'm also going to replace my inverter number tag with that same type of pattern as well, to change that from 1 to 10. Hit the OK button, and that would have created all 10 of the inverters. with all the tags, and you can notice I've got no faults, no codes, but I can see all the different kilowatts that these inverters are generating. Perfect. So I've got all my, let's just maybe give it a little more space that we can see. So I've got all my inverter tags, I've got my med station tags. The only tags that I've got left here is just the tags for my meter, the main meter that's connected to the grid. So let's add that as well, and I'm just going to drag the meter data into there as well. Perfect. And there's all my meter tags inside of there. Alright, so perfect. So I've got all my tags. Everything is set up. I've got them set up to be the MQTT tags. Obviously, if I want them to be pushed to the MQTT broker, I need to embed them underneath this MQTT tag section here. So let's do that. I'm going to drag them all underneath this MQTT tag structure, because when I enable that MQTT transmitter module, it will push them out. And just for some additional data, I'm also going to push out just one of these sign tags as well. So just to show you guys that I can push an individual tag as well as the data structure there. So I'm pretty much done with my edge device. I can now actually move over to my enterprise solution. Right, so I'm going to open up a secondary tag here on my browser, and this time I'm going to connect to the gateway of my enterprise solution. Right. Notice this is running the full ignition. It's not ignition edge. Again, the trial expired, not a problem. I'm going to sign in and enable the trial again, and I've got another 2 hours to play with, so that's great from this perspective. Now all I have to do on this enterprise solution is I need to connect this enterprise to my MQTT broker. So again, yes, as you might have thought, I've got a whole bunch of modules already installed, but I do not have the MQTT module. So let me go and upgrade or install that. I'm going to go and select my MQTT engine module this time, because I now need to collect the tags and create the tags, and I'm going to install that onto my enterprise solution. Perfect. It's going to actually go and install it. There we go. I've got my MQTT engine. Again, I've got some settings here at the bottom, and all I need to do is obviously link that to my cloud hosted instance or my cloud hosted broker, and it's going to go and obviously it knows all of these different namespaces. I'm going to utilize the Sparkplug B namespace or protocol, and that will then automatically create my tags for me. The only other thing that I would like to do on my enterprise solution is connected to a database so that I can historize the data. So currently I've got no database connections whatsoever. I'm going to go and create a new Microsoft SQL database. Let's just call it my MS SQL database. It's running on the default configuration, so default instance. I don't have to change that. Just give it the username and password that I need to connect to. So quickly type that in. Just have to retype it. And then the last thing I need to do is obviously give my database a name. So in this case, this will be my ignition database that I've got created. Perfect. Hit the create new button. And there I go. I've got a valid database connection that I can actually now store this data that I'm getting from my edge device. Perfect. So I think this configuration is set up. It's done. Let's launch the designer for my enterprise solution. In this case, you'll notice that, let's quickly log in here. Again, it's going to ask me to log in with my credentials. And it will list me all my projects that I've got that I can connect to. Now you'll notice that I've got currently no projects. So blank solution that I've got. Now I know my boss told me that I need to get this actually done and dusted by means of the perspective module, so everything must be web-based and in a web solution, but I actually have no clue even where to start. So I've never worked with perspective. I've done a few vision stuff, but I don't know about the new module. So that's not a problem. there's a great website from that inductive automation has, and that is what they call the inductive automation exchange. So if I go to inductiveautomation.com/exchange, I can actually go and browse great resources that people of the community has published. So I'm going to accept the terms of the exchange, and at the bottom here you can notice that I can go and browse for all different types of projects. So if I want to go and look at some perspective views that people have created, there's a nice ad hoc trend chart that somebody has built, and I can actually download this and I can actually use it. But I need an entire project, so let's go back, and what I'm going to do here is I actually want to I want to have an entire project. So let's see if there's any projects. This looks good. There's a COVID tracking project. Someone watched this video on YouTube, and 10 years from now go look at COVID-19, some interesting stuff that happened for us in this day of age. But in any case, here's an entire perspective dashboard. So I can download this project and I actually can go and load it. So let's go and create this project on this enterprise solution of myself. So I'm going to go to the projects tag here. This time I'm going to import a project, and I'm going to browse to this project that I've already downloaded. So there's the project itself, dashboard project. I'm going to import that, give it a name obviously. So this is my solar dashboard, and let's import that. And there we go. I've got a sample project. The only thing I have to do with this project is, let's just edit it. I need to connect it to my database so that I can obviously store data. So the default database, I'm just going to select my Microsoft SQL database, and I'm going to save that. Perfect. Okay, so now I've got a project. So let's launch my Solar Edition again, or my Solar Enterprise Designer. I just need to log in into there, and now I will have the option to actually select this project, my Solar Dashboard project, and let's open it up into my little designer here. Okay, so you can see it's loading all the modules, it's getting all the modules and everything running. So there I go, I've got a sample project. If I look under perspective, there's a whole bunch of pages and pop-ups and widgets that's already been created for me, so luckily I don't have to do all of that. If I look at my tags here, I've got no tags underneath here. If I look at my MQTT engine, there's no data types, and there's no tags from my edge device. Okay, perfect. Alright, so I'm going to resize this a bit, and I'm going to open up the tags here in my edge device. So obviously I would like to have all of these tags automatically populate here when I enable that MQTT module. So let's go to the Raspberry Pi's gateway. Remember, I disabled it. So what I'm going to do, I'm very quickly going to go and enable this. I'm going to hit the Save Change button here, and let's have a look. So I would like to have all of these tags populate inside here. There's a refresh. So let's see if I expand that. There's the edge, there's the Pi, there's all the inverters and my sign tag, and it also generated the data type, the inverter data type for me. So every time I do this, it amazes me how quickly and how easy it is to actually push data all the way from my edge into my enterprise solution. It really is very simple and very cool to do it with this Sparkplug-B protocol from the MQTT perspective. Perfect, so I've got my tags. Now I need to obviously create a dashboard so I can visualize these tags. I know nothing about this perspective project, so I'm not even going to delve into the design here. All I'm going to do is I'm actually going to launch this project. So I'm going to go and launch my perspective project here. Now this demo project that they've created is actually amazing, and the reason why I say that is that I can do everything from the front end. I don't have to go and create anything in there. So even the tables that's required in my database, I could create this. It will create it from the front end. I can actually, from my browser here, create a dashboard. So let's call that my solar dashboard. I can say, do I want it fixed, or do I want it to stretch when I resize? I would like to have it fixed when I resize. I can also go and create okay, so let's just add the breakpoint there if I want to go and create mobile responsive designs. So I can design it for certain resolutions, etc. So if I look at my widgets here, I can design it for anything below 600 pixels. The layout should be X, and everything above that, the layout should be Y. So let's add some widgets on the screen here. Let's add a gauge. Let's add a trend here as well. So I can go and add a trend, or I can add a weather station data on there. I can actually go and edit these to actually look at the tags that I've just created in my project. So let's make this a bit bigger. Let's browse for the tags here. So underneath my MQTT tag, I've got my edge nodes here. Let's look at my temperature potentially. So let's look at the meter data. Let's look at, oh sorry, my med station. Let's look at the temperature there. I know that's tag number 1 or 2. Will give me my temperature. There we go. And I can actually design this entire solution right here in this front end from a mobile perspective, which I think is absolutely great. So there's a whole bunch of default stuff that's already been created here, like just if I want a numeric display. So let's animate this to look at one of my inverters kilowatts from a tag perspective here. So let's browse that. Inverters, sorry, inverter number 1. Let's look at the kilowatts there, and there I go. So I can get all of the data that is required. I can save this, and now I have a up and running little dashboard here. Let's do the following. When it is from 0 to 600, let's move the weather station to the bottom here because I have less real estate, and when it's 600, I'm going to leave it there. So when it's bigger than that, it's perfect. So when I resize it on my mobile device, I can actually see how that works from that perspective. So I'm on my dashboard. I've got enough real estate here, so it will fill up the whole screen. So let's get my phone here back into action on this device here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just very quickly going to create a QR code for us, so I can actually browse my project here. So this is just going to be very quickly 192.168.1, and then alright, that's the port of my gateway. Let's lock the phone. Now I've already downloaded the Ignition app, the Perspective app for mobile. If I open that up, currently I've got no applications. You see I've got no projects there, but I can very simple add a project. Now I can either scan a QR code or I can search the gateway. Let's scan a code here. A little bit of inception, but let's point that. There's my little dashboard project. Let's launch that. Again, it's going to ask me to sign in, so let's sign that in, and let's do that. Whoops, if I can spell correctly, sorry guys. Live demos, and there we go. Now notice, because my resolution is smaller than the layout that I've got here, it would have go and chose the other layout or the other kind of solution. So that's great that I can actually design for these different applications that we have from a mobile perspective. Alright, perfect. Now the last thing that I want to show you guys before we end off here today is that obviously if my connection dies from my edge device, I would like to keep the data, right? And you'll remember that when I've configured my little edge device here, that I had the capability to create this history store on my device itself. So let's do the following. I'm going to go and add historization to this sign tag that I've got here. So let's enable history and let's store it into my SQL database here. Let's apply, and that will now start storing my data. Let's create a very simple vision screen here. It's going to be just a one screen. I can actually close this, so let's just do this. This is my history demo, part of the demo. And let's add a very simple chart to the screen. So there's an easy chart, and let's just add the tag picker as well to the screen, so I can actually go and add the tag to my screen here. Alright, so let's put this in live mode, and let me add my tag here to the screen, so my sign tag, and there we go. We're starting to historize that sign tag. So that's busy historizing, it's getting its data, etc. Now let's have a look at this tag. Currently it's good, it's busy updating, so it will historize. But what happens now if I actually go and pull the network connection on the Pi? So let's get the phone back here. Let's quickly get the video out. Sorry, you have to look at my face again. But anyway, let's go to the Pi, and what I'm going to do, without actually destroying everything here, I'm just going to pull the network connection to the Pi. Alright, so I've pulled the network connection to the Pi. So let's move this away. What I expect to happen is this float tag, you'll notice that the data is not updating anymore, but it should go and fault. Okay, so there we've got the connection lost for the gateway, so realize that the connection is down. It will also start giving me a bad tag or a bad data on this sign tag. It's going to take some time, so probably takes about a minute for the system to realize that tag is now down and it's dead. So when there we go, so I got the fault indication here that it is dead. So what I'm expecting on this sine wave is I don't think I'm going to get all the data back, because it had to realize that data point is down before we get comms again. So I think we went down. Let's see if I can get a timestamp of when we last had an update. Sorry, I'm just going to make this a bit bigger. So 2:33. So it's about been a minute or so that it's been down. So let's just give it another few seconds here, and then what I'll do is I'll actually reconnect the Pi here. So let's give it a few seconds. Let's see, that's probably enough. It's about a minute and a half that this thing has been unplugged, so without destroying everything, let's plug it back again. Okay, there we go. Network activity is back on the Pi. Let's see what's happened here. So we still, the connection is restored. There we go, we've got tag data, and let's see what happens here if I refresh my trend. So there we go. So you notice I've got a little bit of a gap, but it actually filled it in very nicely, and I've got data all the way from 34-ish all the way. So for the minute there that was down, it actually did store the data in my cache, and it's busy pushing that out again. So that's great that it has that on store capability from that perspective. Perfect. Well guys, I really want to thank you for attending the webinar today, and I really hope that you guys saw and that you see how easy it is to get going and to configure an Ignition solution to actually connect to a device, to get the data out, and actually having these edge devices push data to an enterprise solution where you can actually go and create mobile device applications to visualize your data. A little bit of what's happening next week. Next week we're going to do series or part number 2 of our webinar, and that's now utilizing the Canary time series historian to historize these tags and to get great data that we can utilize for analysis from a historical perspective. Also, I would like to encourage you guys to sign up with the Inductive Automation, go through the Inductive University. We're having a little bit of a promotion during lockdown, where we have a little bit of Uber Eats vouchers for you guys. If you succeeded with your certification and post it on LinkedIn, we will support that, and we have the chance to win a Uber Eats voucher until the end of May. So please keep on the lookout for those emails for our next webinar happening next week. And I really want to thank you guys again for attending this webinar, and please stay safe until next week. Cheers.